Well, tick tock, tick tock. The presidential election's less than 2 months away, so how will choosing a new president affect the nation's economy? Joining me now with some more information is Eric Brotman with Brotman Financial Group. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, thanks for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We are always worried about our money, so it's an important topic.
It is an important topic, and there's a lot of, I think, misinformation flying around, which is strange during an election campaign, of course, but I think people are nervous.
So let's start off with, how do you think the election's going to affect the stock market?
I think initially, regardless of who wins, we're going to see the stock market correct. However, I anticipate that it will be short-lived. I think no matter who wins this election, half of the population of our country is going to be uncomfortable and nervous and may take some action that will impact the market, at least initially. I don't think it's cause to take any major action, though.
All right, so financially speaking, what would you say is the worst possible outcome of the election?
A contested election. It's really important that we not go through an Al Gore, Dimpled Chad situation here. Regardless of who wins, knowing what the rules are, knowing who is going to be in the White House next, is going to create some clarity. Markets absolutely hate uncertainty.
That's more stable.
I don't know how stable it'll be, but at least there'll be some certainty. We'll know what the rules are.
Okay. All right. So what about taxes?
You know, both presidential candidates have different tax policies, but the fact that we have to remember is that tax policy is mostly driven by the legislature. So it'll depend a lot more on who has the House and who has the Senate than it will who has the White House.
So it's more of a party thing.
I think it is. You know, the Trump campaign is talking about making some changes to estate taxes and simplifying the tax code in various ways, and the Clinton campaign is having a completely different discussion, as you might expect. But the reality is the President of the United States does not drive tax policy. Congress does.
All right, so what are the biggest issues of this election that may have a financial implication? You
know, the biggest issues of this election, to me, are the potential 1, 2, or even 3 Supreme Court justices that may be appointed by the next president.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily see this as a White House issue, an executive issue, or even necessarily a legislative one. I see this as a Supreme Court issue. And so while the economy will tend to react more to what the legislature does, I think the nation will react very, very quickly and swiftly to whatever happens at the Supreme Court level.
All right, lastly, financially, what do you think will happen after the election, and how can people really prepare for that?
First things first, when the election noise gets louder, if you can imagine that it can get louder, when it gets louder, tune it out. Tune out, at least in terms of the markets and the economy. I don't mean national issues, but in terms of the market and the economy, don't take action based on whatever happens in November. It will be a long-term game, not a short-term game. I do expect that we'll see some market correction right after the election, again, no matter who wins. And as long as we have a declared winner, we'll be fine.
I like the sound of that. We'll be fine.
We'll be fine.
All right, thank you so much, Eric.
Sure.
All right.